how do you see the need of a degree or the careers in accounting and finance with AI, like a new industry disruption coming up?
We're not going to have graduates at university coming out and doing basic bookkeeping anymore. We have AI to do that. The problem solving, the critical thinking skills that we still do well better at than a machine, and I think we always will. That it's not just about recording transactions in a general ledger anymore. It's more about having conversations, being able to find out information and put information together.
You need to be an introvert and you need to be good with numbers.
Not
Is
anymore.
that true?
Not anymore.
Hello everyone, today we have Mam Jackie. She teaches accounting and finance here at UFR. She is a CPA accountant. She has been into teaching since 19 years, right ma'am?
You age me, but yes, absolutely.
And you first were working in the industry of accounting and finance, and then you transitioned into accounting, like in terms of teaching.
Exactly.
So is there anything else you want to add in your intro?
No, you've covered it quite well. Thank you.
Perfect.
You've done your research. I appreciate it, MJ.
So by the way, how do you differentiate the accounting field, because you worked in the industry, from what we teach in university?
So how is practice different than teaching in academics?
Like there is a big debate around the world that what they teach and how the industry is, it's totally opposites.
Oh, I wouldn't say it's totally opposite.
Yeah.
I would say that they're complementary, but definitely different. So the things that we teach in university, obviously it's hard to get all the complexity that you would get out in the real world. And problems look different in accounting classrooms because we're really focused on concepts more than we are on the minutia and the details. But I would say, yeah, they're complementary. Students can't go out into the field of accounting without knowing the basics and without knowing some vocabulary and all the tools, getting the tools in their toolkit. And I would say that practice really feeds back into academia, understanding, especially after students leave and come back to do recruiting for their workplaces. I get to learn a lot about how that knowledge is used in the workplace, and so I love it when students come back and see me.
That's nice. And how do you compare the lifestyle of an accountant, like a practicing accountant, and the lifestyle of a teacher who is like teaching accounting? Because you have lived both of the lives, right?
I would say so. I would say I didn't go into academia for the money. I do it because I love it, because I love teaching and I love researching. I basically get to choose a problem or a research question and then go off and answer it. And I have resources at my disposal to do that. So it's a really fun and challenging career. It's so different from practice in terms of the interactions that I get in the community and with students, and in terms of 9 to 5 as well, I guess. I like to tell people I research as a hobby, so I tend to work long hours and do a lot of work into the evening sometimes. But at the same time, I love it. So it's not a 9 to 5, that's for sure. But it's a style of life.
You basically enjoy teaching more than doing the actual accounting, right?
I enjoyed both. They both have their own challenges, I suppose. I do miss practice sometimes, but I do a little bit of bookkeeping for my brother who has his own business, and tax times. Friends always have questions for me as well, so I feel like I get to dabble in it just a little bit.
By the way, you were into the field. So what was that moment when you felt that you need to transition from the accounting field to teaching field? Like, what was the story behind that?
Well, I never really saw myself in the classroom, and I have to tell you, I was absolutely petrified, even thinking about stepping into the classroom, because I was really quite reserved before I started teaching at the university. But I was approached after several years of practice. I was approached by one of my former instructors. His name's David, and I saw him at my convocation for my CPA, and he said, "Hey, have you ever thought about teaching? I think you might have an aptitude for it." And so I came and I taught a couple of classes, and then I just learned to love the classroom, and there was just no stepping away from it for me.
Basically, David was the character that brought the changed the story of your life from an accountant to a teacher, right?
He did. And I never intended on staying. I intended on just teaching
Yeah.
a little bit while I practiced. I had my own business at the time doing bookkeeping and tax returns. And I really enjoyed that, being my own boss and making my own hours and having that work-life balance with my kids was lovely as a practitioner.
What was the business you were doing?
I had a bookkeeping and tax practice. So it was just me and a couple of bookkeepers, and that I hired, and they were my staff. But I did that for a few years.
Yeah.
And then there was a position that opened up, and they asked me to come and stay for a year. And during that year, my lovely friend Marina Rennie said, "Hey, I think you might be okay at research as well. Have you ever thought about doing a PhD?" And I said, "Well, if I'm going to do a PhD, I'm going to do it somewhere interesting, and get some travel as well." And so I went to England and I did my PhD in the UK. So. Yeah, so it's just a whirlwind decade for me.
How do you compare the education system of UK from here? Since you have experienced how they teach and how our Saskatchewan teaches, is it like same or is it different?
It's different. My kids were in primary and secondary school when I was there as well. So I think right from pre-primary, there are differences. I think anywhere that you are, right? You've been other places as well and done education in other places as well. And there are always big differences. I think one of the benefits of Canadian institutions, and certainly our institution, is that it allows for students to really grow and develop during their university career. So in England, you sort of have to choose your path of study, and you're in a cohort, and you do your education in that field of study. Whereas here, especially at our institution, which began as really a liberal arts institution, there's a bit more flexibility around changing your education and career path.
Yeah, when I was thinking of doing my bachelor's, I was thinking of Glasgow, UK, because I'm from a little bit from there. But the thing is that once we choose a field there, we cannot change that because that's how the British education system is. And the reason I chose Canada was that we can play around with our degree. First
That's
I was
really
in
interesting.
film, then I went into CS, then I went back to film, and now I'm about to change officially my career from film to business. Not official. I haven't done it officially.
Isn't it?
Yeah.
Yeah. How do you find the change?
I think it's good. Business is more about value creation, and at the end of the day, if I have the capital, I don't need the degree because I can hire those people, but I need to understand the different aspects of business.
I always try to I think that there's such value, especially in fine arts and engineering and some of those applied professions. It's so interesting to have them in the business classroom because there's so much value added for having students who know film or, choral music or drama, to have them in our classrooms and really help them to understand that they can formalize what they're doing into a career path that is lucrative for them, and manage their strategy and marketing and accounting and all those things to help them feel less overwhelmed when they're going out and trying to actually market their craft. So,
yeah, I agree. Because,
and it makes for really interesting students in the classroom as well.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So, by the way, why did you choose UK while you were from Canada? Why not Canadian institutions? I think the fees would be also lesser here because there you would be an international student, right?
To be honest, because I was sort of an advanced international student, I had scholarships and bursaries that covered me in my institution. But you're right. I mean, the international fees for my master's, had they not been covered, were about £30,000, I think. It's very expensive to be an international student. So I feel for international students domestically here as well.
I think I'm paying 30,000 CAD per year here at 40K after housing and everything.
Yeah, it's challenging.
But I have a question. So if you are someone who is born and raised in Saskatchewan, don't you think if you're going to do masters within Canada, you're going to make more local connections if you are planning to stay in the country instead of going to a different country where you're definitely going to make connections, but they won't be helpful in this country that much as it's here if you're studying here. For example, now I know you. Your brother has a company. If I need a job and I'm on merit, I can always ask you for referral. Same way, when you're in an area, you make referrals that are going to help you.
Yeah.
So what was the story behind UK?
Well, I think I'd been in practice in Regina for a while, and I did my undergrad degree at the U of R.
Yeah.
We don't have an accounting master's program here anyway, but it always looks good on your resume if you have education from different institutions. And that's because you're mentored by different individuals, by different researchers and instructors who can kind of help you become a well-rounded professional. And at the time, the year that I started teaching here full time was 2011, and I was the first cohort here to teach IFRS, so International Financial Reporting Standards. So just as I was getting ready to do my PhD, Canada transitioned to international standards, which meant that I could go to any country that used IFRS. And of course, the UK has used it since 2005.
So you had a competitive advantage over others.
I had an advantage. So finally, accountants could study abroad, and we were looking at the same financial statements that we use domestically. And Marina, who was mentoring me at the time, she had some connection to Lancaster University as well. And so she had recommended them. And lastly, I was late to write the MCAT. So the exam that has to be written to do masters in Canada and in the UK as well. But Lancaster University, because I basically already had a master's degree, I have my professional designation, they waived that. So I could start in the fall, even though from admissions to most other Canadian universities, at least, I would have had to wait until a year later. So, there were lots of things that just came together for me to study at Lancaster University. And I'm really glad that I did. It was an adventure for me and for my family, and I learned a lot being in a different environment. So in Canada, we write our financial statements in a certain way, same as the States, really. We have the same type of formatting. In the UK and in
it's the different
British
education system.
It's very different. They present their financial statements differently in a different order. The narrative around their financial statements is very different. And of course, in the UK, they're best in the world at corporate governance. So I learned a lot being there that I wouldn't have if I had stayed here.
Yeah. I personally enjoy the Canadian education system, but if it comes to learning, I think UK is comparatively more competitive in terms of disciplining you, because you cannot change your degree. If you have made a decision, you need to own it. Here, Canada is you have time to explore and then be good in what you want. So I think both countries have their pros and cons.
I think too, we really value interdisciplinary skill.
Yeah.
So for example, when I did my undergrad, I dabbled in linguistics for a while, and then I did business. I did education somewhere in the middle there too. The education degree here, I started that, and then ended up in business. So when I went to Lancaster, I had this sort of a wider array of education than a lot of other students did. So I ended up doing sort of an interdisciplinary dissertation, PhD dissertation, looking at all of the storytelling that comes around financial reports. So companies talking about their strategy, their performance, their risks in their business model, and there's a whole discussion. An annual report is 200 pages. 50 pages of that maybe is financial reports. The rest of it is all description. So I got a chance to do that. And I think in Canada, we really benefit from that interdisciplinary approach, being able to take from here and here and here, because in our undergrad, we get exposed to so much right?
Yeah.
You can take psychology, sociology, economics, and that's the background of business, really. Business isn't a discipline in and of itself. It builds on
It's a blend of
all
everything.
these foundational disciplines. And so we have the opportunity here to study those, the core tenets sort of business, And
Yeah.
so I think that's really interesting.
And how do you see the need of the degree or the careers in accounting and finance with AI and like a new industry disruption coming up?
It's tough, isn't it? Who knows where we're going to be with AI? It's incredible,
Yeah.
absolutely incredible. But I would say that although the data entry function is going to go away, so we're not going to have graduates at university coming out and doing basic bookkeeping anymore. We have AI to do that. We can scan receipts and they go straight into the books. It compiles basic financial statements. Also with audit, AI is going to be useful in audit in terms of, choosing which transactions to look at and that sort of a thing. What's really missing in the debate that I see right now around AI and accounting is the professionalism, the problem solving, the critical thinking skills that we still do well better at than a machine. And I think we always will, that intuition in terms of what threads to pull on and what information to look at.
Yeah.
And so I think although data entry is going to go away, I don't think any budding accountant is going to be upset about that. Data entry is going to go away, but all the higher level functions are going to stay there. Students are going to get slotted into sort of management type functions is what's going to happen, which I think is great for them. There's so many openings in accounting right now. There's so many openings. There's such a need for good accountants right now. Most accounting students coming out of university get jobs quickly. So I think now's really the best time to study.
One thing which I think is that we humans also judge on the basis of background, facts, and patterns, right? Like if you're going to make a decision, you're going to see the company's patterns, current board and their history. And on the basis of that, you're going to see that predict the return of investment, which is potentially going to be a very basic pattern-based judgment. So when AI can replicate that, do you think the education system as a whole would evolve a lot?
I hope the education system continues to evolve. I think this is already happening to require more critical thinking and professional judgment skills as opposed to, rote memorization. A lot of case-based work, a lot of sort of research-based critical judgments, and I hope that continues on. Analyzing big data, for example. Being able to synthesize large data sets and with the help of computerization, coming to some sort of summary of results and being able to interpret it. I think that interpretation, giving information different weights, right? Deciding what to rely on. I still think that humans are better than that. And I mean, who knows what the world's going to look like in 20 years, but...
And how do you see the future of education system as a whole? So what I'm talking about is right now, our university or most of the universities don't have an explicit AI policy that allows AI. Like we're allowed a calculator in exams, but we are not allowed AI, whereas everyone knows that everyone is using it, right? So do you think an AI policy would be coming not right now, but within the next 5 to 6 years?
I have a lot of colleagues who are really interested in AI. And there are certainly a lot of conversations that we have in faculty meetings about how to handle AI, how to harness it, and still ask our students to think critically and use problem solving, because we're definitely not at a spot, and I hope we never are, where we have sort of pocket AI and we can just ask it questions. I think still dialogue between people is interesting, looking at cases and discussing them critically in class and doing that analytics work is really important. And so I would love to see education be more problem solving and engaging, and conversations like you and I are having and have had in the hallway, just talking about how, accounting standards are right now, how they could be, how we can make the world better, how we can make companies work more efficiently, how we can create accountability for companies, for governments, for each other, how we can move forward in a good way. So I think those issues aren't under the domain of AI, and I think maybe we never want them to be. I'd love for AI to clean my home, but I don't really want it to replace my social interactions. So
makes sense.
I think there's still a place for students to come to university and challenge each other and be challenged and challenge me. Certainly I have a lot of students who ask excellent questions, and I learned a lot from them as well. So.
And ma'am, for someone who is graduating in accounting and finance field, what things do you think are going to come under the umbrella of the field for someone in an entry-level position?
What do I think they're going to do?
Yeah, like what are the typical entry-level positions right now?
There's a lot of auditing. So auditing, tax, looking at internal controls and how a company makes sure that there's no, for example, fraud or misconduct that's happening in companies. There's still a role for accountants, particularly accountants who understand technology, who have some skill in computer science, to make systems talk to each other and make sure that data is being held well.
Yeah.
For finance, it's hard to speak to because although I have some background in finance, I haven't taught finance here, and I'm not well connected into the finance world here. So I'm not sure what finance jobs look like here. I mean, Regina is a smaller market than Toronto or Vancouver or what have you, where students can come out and work for big banks and do a lot of work on the stock market, do a lot of trading in that way. I mean, we don't have the same industry
here in Saskatchewan.
Yeah, in Saskatchewan. And who knows, that might change over time. But our students go all over, though. I have a student who just contacted me the other day from Chile, wanting to have a conversation. Students in Toronto and England that have moved over to England. I just wrote another reference letter for a student to go there last week. And so we've got students from Regina all over the world who do their education here and then choose to go to a market where they can engage in some really challenging international work. So I think for students studying accounting, sort of the sky's the limit. There's so many possibilities. You can open up your own business. You can work for a Crown corporation. We've got a lot of students working for the Crown, or in CRA, or at PST at the Ministry of Finance. There are so many different opportunities.
I have a question here. So someone who is doing a degree in accounting and finance, in order to get one of the best jobs, for example, there are 3 types of jobs. One that anyone can get, one that are competitive, and few which are only for the top students, right? So in order to grab those top jobs as a graduate, any certifications or anything you would like to recommend?
Yes, you say I'm not sure that it's always
for
about who
bachelor
gets
student.
the best marks. I think it's who can understand and really be engaged in concepts in university, not necessarily to get the credits or to, get on the Dean's Honor List, but really uses that education to get a deep understanding of the underlying context, to question their world. And then they go out, and there is an inquisitiveness, there's a curiosity that's necessary, I think, to do really well, even in accountancy, particularly in accountancy. But then I would say, yes, so you get out of university, get your CPA, and then there are different ways to go even after CPA. You could get your, forensic accountant to look for fraud and really go through with a fine-tooth comb companies' records and find fraud and misstatement. And insurance professionals, there's, the sky's the limit. There are so many different ways to go. Certainly we see a lot of CPAs who get their CFA as well, and do work in investing. There are so many different opportunities, so many different ways to blend credentials to get a high-level job.
Got it.
But I will say that most of the C-suite, like your CEOs, CFOs, COOs, chief operating officers, and chair people on a board, have their CPAs.
So CPAs
accountants
are must.
tend to do quite well. Yeah.
Got it. And in your opinion, you have been teaching since last 19 to 20 years, as we chatted earlier.
Yeah.
So when you're in a class, what personality types do you see that do well in the field?
I think traditionally there's research saying that it's sort of introverts, people who really rely on concrete information instead of their intuition. But I think that the profession is evolving without that data entry, those data entry type positions, and just sitting at a computer and working with data. Accountants are really going out and having conversations and working on solving problems with business owners and using information to do that. And so you see that in the, CPA professional development and the pathways to become a CPA are changing right now to reflect the fact that it's not just about recording transactions in a general ledger anymore. It's more about having conversations, being able to find out information and put information together.
Mostly people say that you need to be an introvert and you need to be good with numbers.
Not
Is
anymore.
That true?
Not anymore. Definitely we're valuing communication and problem solving skills and the ability to sort of have empathy, regulate yourself emotionally. There are all these, emotional intelligence type characteristics that are also sought now in those types of professions.
Got it. And in your opinion, how can one make it big in the field after doing CPA, after doing bachelor's? Because you have already done that and you have been into the actual field. So any strategies to be on the top of the hierarchy within the field? Anyone can get a 100K job. A lot of people do get. But
the jobs are paying much better for entry-level positions now than
surviving
they used to.
above that, going to the top of the hierarchy.
I think it's useful to see as much as you possibly can. I think being willing to accept a challenge, not to do things that you're unqualified to do, but to accept a challenge. It's going to be hard work because so many people don't want to do it, right? It does take quite a lot of hard work. Accept a challenge, be brave, go out and see what your limits are, and you might surprise yourself. So that would be my piece of advice.
Got it. And what is the average salary of someone who graduates from university? Either it be our university or any other university in Alberta, Winnipeg or Manitoba, or anywhere in Canada. What's the entry level job salary?
It depends on the type of work that you do, and
for
of course
accountant.
in Regina it's going to be different than in, say, Toronto, where the standard of living is, or the cost of living is much higher. But I would say here I've had companies come into my classroom and advertise jobs around $80,000 a year for students that are coming out. It's going to depend on their work experience and sort of their past careers, the work that they've done, but that's
around 80,000.
I would guess what you're looking at.
Got it.
Like that.
And do you see the importance of co-ops while doing a degree or no?
I was going to say that too. A part of the experience that you get is the co-ops. And the co-ops are really valuable because it gives you an opportunity to evaluate whether you are a good fit with a particular employer, and it gives them an opportunity with no risk to hire you for a short period of time. If you're not a good fit, you just leave at the end. But certainly a lot of students come out of co-op jobs with full-time jobs. There's a real opportunity there. And so I would say for students thinking about taking co-op to go ahead, jump on in. It might sound scary because students sometimes will start at accounting firms, just after they finish their intro accounting, And so that might seem scary, but give it a go. Give it a go early and see if you like it. Because if you find out you hate it, you've saved yourself time and credits, and you can always pivot. Same thing if you're doing marketing, right? You may take a marketing job and say, oh, I hate this. Maybe I want to go into accounting. So I think there's great opportunity there to learn about yourself and a fit with a job and a fit with an employer. And in accounting, there are several pathways. You can go with an accounting firm, and every accounting firm has a slightly different culture. You can go with a Crown. You can go with government, CRA or the Ministry of Finance, or you can find another company to work at, Brand Industries, for example, or the co-op. And so there's so many different employers in Regina that I think it's important to really try a few out before you choose your final career path. So I love the co-op program. I think it's great. Adds a little bit of extra time to your degree, but you're getting paid during those co-op work
I think
terms.
it's a good thing because we get the exposure too, right? Like if I'm thinking of doing marketing, but I then realize that I'm good in that, but I'm not super good, so I can experience the life of a marketer while doing the co-op. Right now we are going to go to our next module. Here we have Grace. She's going to ask you a few questions.
Oh, lovely. Hi, Grace.
You wrote a textbook, right?
I did. Am I blushing now? I feel like I'm blushing. Yes, I did. I did write a textbook. Thank you.
What was that process like?
It was a long process. It was much longer than I thought it would be. Can I tell you a quick story about my textbook? So I started writing my textbook over COVID. And that was because I found that I had kids at home and there was so much going on and so much anxiety in that time, right? I had a really hard time sitting down and writing heavy research papers at the time. And so I thought, I've done a series of sort of booklets that were quite playful for students to review accounting concepts for some of my intermediate accounting classes where students hadn't taken accounting for a while. It had been a while since intro. I wrote a bunch of little playful booklets for them to get back into accounting. And I thought, you know what, I'm going to write more booklets. And then I thought, I've written quite a few of these now. I could probably weave them into some sort of an intro textbook that would be interesting. And so I got a grant for it from the university. I get nothing from it, but it did allow me to hire students to help me out and to really, I'm not great. You talk about AI, I'm not great with computers and with, I'm an okay coder for statistics, but in terms of HTML coding, I was very, very grateful to hire Randy Harris, who was my tech guru, to put all of that information online. And so the writing it for me was just, it was a lot of fun. It was something to do to feel like I was contributing, like I was still creating, because I always need to be creating, but in a way that was getting down on paper things that I already know and ways that I already knew that students can learn well in the classroom. So real labor of love. It took, 2020 I started it, and it was published just this year or very early this year. So yeah, it was a long time in the process, but I had a really great team. Randy Harris, I have to mention, and also Toby Willis-Camp was my editor and project manager and shoulder to cry on, and she was very lovely. So thank you.
And by the way, if you were in university right now and assume you were 20 right now, would you do all over again the same degree, or would you change your career?
I don't think I'd change a thing.
Yeah.
I think I work a lot in linguistics. When I was 20 and going through my program, every time I switched, you might be like this, you might be different with your film and business. Every time I switched, I thought, there's another year I've wasted, right? I mean, why couldn't I just figure out sooner what I want to do? But I think every time that I tried something and I pivoted, I learned something new. And now I'm working as a researcher here, and I'm doing research in linguistics, which takes me back to when I was 19 years old, right? That's what I was studying when I was 19 years old. So I think don't be afraid to try new things.
So you would
sometimes
do the
it all
same thing
comes
again,
around.
right?
I would do the same thing again. Yeah. My style choices might be different, and my some of those choices, but no, I think I wouldn't change a thing about what I studied and how I came to this point. I mean, I love my job.
Yeah.
I love my students. I love my life that I've created here in Regina. And so I don't know, so many different factors had to come together to be here. And look at me now, sitting in a room with two wonderful students. You were cute as a button, and I'm really proud to be where I am. So.
Perfect. And I have one more question.
Sure.
That how do you see the importance of the student clubs like Hill BSS, Hill JDC, Enactus, or all the clubs that are teaching business or like giving the students opportunity to practice them?
I think some students really thrive in those
Yeah.
types of environments. I think if that's, again, back to my conversation about just being brave and trying things out.
Yeah.
And then if you don't like it or it doesn't work for you, that's okay. So I think everyone should give it a go. Take a look at it, see if that's an environment that you thrive in, and go from there. Some students just want to get their degree. Some students have things going on outside the classroom.
Yeah.
But there are some really great opportunities here at Hill and Levine. And I think there's a little bit of something for everyone. JDC West is different from, some of the other Hill case competitions and the Kingston competition. There's so much.
Like, can you
there
give
for
the
students.
people who are watching this podcast a quick like intro to the clubs, or like any one or two clubs which someone who is interested in accounting can join, and what can he learn from like being a part of the club?
There's a lot of case competitions. So
Yeah.
JDC West, the Kingston competition, they're ICBC, that's what it's called. And those are really wonderful opportunities. There are other opportunities as well. We offer job opportunities for TAs,
Yeah.
for lab instructors, for all types of accounting classes, research assistant positions as well. So if you really think you might have an aptitude to try out some research, go find your favorite professor and say, hey, this is something
Yeah.
that I'm interested in. Would you ever have any positions opening? Don't be afraid to come
ask.
up and ask
Yeah.
for things that you might be interested in, or come up and say, hey, I think research might be interesting to me. What do you do? Ask questions. And the clubs are really great. But your university experience can be so much broader than even just clubs.
Yeah.
There are so many opportunities. Athletics and intramurals, create connections there. There's the Hill Business Student Society, the dinner that they run every
Yeah.
year. I run a accounting fellowship banquet every year for some of our best accounting students. Join the fellowship, and there's a free dinner for them every year where they get to connect with all the previous fellows from the past 30 years. It's been going
So,
on for
like,
30 years.
It's like an ecosystem,
So
right?
it is a whole ecosystem.
Okay.
And so I think just find a way to get involved in that ecosystem, whether it's through clubs or through relationships with students or professors or getting involved with industry. And I mean, there's not a wrong way you can go. Just get out and be brave and
Yeah.
try things out.
And lastly, any one quote you would like to tell the viewers, or any one advice for the students who are interested in pursuing a career in accounting?
What advice do I have for students coming out? I guess I was just speaking to my accounting theory class today, and we talk a lot about, critical thinking and problem solving and accounting standards and the importance of accounting in our environment. And I think the idea of knowing what you don't know,
Yeah.
know enough about yourself and be confident enough in yourself to be able to admit what you don't know, and to be able to find a team that builds on your weaknesses, like really become aware
Yeah.
of who you are and what you know and what you don't know. And I think that takes you far.
Perfect.
Lovely.
Thank you very much, ma'am, for joining us today.
Of course. Thanks for
I
having
think
me on, MJ.
your advice was one of the best ones till now.
I will take that as a
Yeah.
great compliment. Thank you.
Thank you.